Shalom. So we are here with Nesher, and Nesher is well, it's your username, which means actually vulture, but gets translated as eagle. And what happened was when I started streaming on Twitch, Nesher came on Twitch, and he knows pretty much as much biblical Hebrew as I do, which was great. And so we started talking, and he joined the Discord, and what we're gonna give a try to is, because there's no way I can get through the entire Bible, especially doing it one chapter a week. What we're gonna try doing is Nesher is gonna do we're going to try, we'll see. Nesher is going to try to do some chapters in a similar manner, maybe with small differences, however he's comfortable. And so first thing I would say is like and subscribe. Second thing I'll say is please do comment what times anybody thinks is good. And we haven't made any, the only thing we know so far is that it's not going to be during my live stream, and that's about the only limitation. Well, the other thing is it's not going to be on a Jewish holiday. But please comment whatever you think is a good time, and we will give that an opportunity. Also, what I wanted to help introduce is Nesher has written several books, which are really interesting. And so please tell us about your books.
So when I first started learning Hebrew, I started writing, I was doing a lot of studying because I first started realizing that, the law wasn't done away with, because I came from a Christian background. And so while I was learning a bunch of those things and many different Hebrew concepts, and when I was learning Hebrew, I just started coming across a bunch of things. So the first book I started writing is this is the hardback.
Oh wow, you got it printed.
Yeah. Now I'm not registered at Barnes and Noble. I'm not registered as a seller because I don't want to be yet. So this is just my own personal use, but because I give the free PDFs away, on your Discord or on my website. But just for my own use, I got some printed out. But so this is the first book this started in 2011. This is it's basically done now, except for like if people start reading it in the future and start telling me. I'm sure some people have read it, but I haven't got much feedback, like really just a couple.
So what's it about?
So it's about mostly proving that the Bible is, from God. How do we know which books should be in the Bible? Like which books shouldn't be in the Bible, like the Apocrypha, there's just a bunch of books like that.
I'm gonna have to read all this stuff, because honestly, we've talked about Hebrew a lot. We haven't really discussed too much about our various theologies. And it's interesting. I think we have a very similar way of looking at the Bible, in that we both believe that the Bible is true and that we should engage it together. But beyond that, you come from a very different background. Like you said, you come from a Christian background. And you also previously said, what I really liked, what you talked about before we started recording, was you said you go to a church and you see something doesn't seem to fit with the Bible, and you start asking questions and they don't like that.
Right. if you don't like, if you don't agree with their pet peeve doctrine or their favorite doctrine, yeah, they don't like it if you ask questions.
And yeah, you like me seem to like, okay, we have our views, but to me it seems, if you're taking the word of God seriously, in my opinion, um, who am I to tell you you're wrong? I may disagree with you, but I God puts in your heart, and actually that verse. So you taught me a new way of understanding this verse. So this is Psalm 37:4, and actually absolutely love the way he put it. So this is Psalm 37:4. Vehitnaeg al havaya, veyiten lecha mishalot libecha. And it so the translation, and delight yourself in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. But that translation, veyiten lecha mishalot libecha, in a very literal sense, it says, um, God shall set the desires of your heart. And that's just a beautiful way of saying it. And I very much, I agree with you. It's, whatever's ultimately, if you pray, I can, one of the things I pray for, and I think a lot of people pray for, is for God to actually do set our heart and where we're going. So that's just such a beautiful way of reading that verse.
I mean, I wish I could take credit for, discovering that concept of the verse, but because like when I was growing up, in Christianity, a lot of Christians believe this verse to be like, if you delight yourself in God, He'll give you what you want.
Mhm.
But so I had to come into the understanding of this what I believe is the right interpretation of this verse. I forgot who I got that correction of the translation from, but I think I have it in my book, What is Truth. I think I do mention it. But yeah, it is when I first heard that interpretation of that verse, I was like, whoa, that's pretty amazing, and then I had that that life example of how God put Hebrew, the passion of learning Hebrew into my heart. So I had that example. And I'm like, yeah, that must be what this verse means, because I understand that now.
Well, first of all, I'm very impressed. You started studying Hebrew 10 years ago, and your Hebrew is very, very good. And I grew up as a child learning to read Hebrew, and I have family, and I've been a lot more involved than you have. So you came from a Christian background. Do you still consider yourself a Christian?
Yeah, I don't agree with any denomination or official church. I believe I should read the Bible myself. What do you call it? There's well, anyway, yeah, I just believe I should read the Bible myself, and then ask God to help me interpret it. And if it disagrees with a Christian denomination or another religion, then I should ask God to tell me what the interpretation is, or for Him to show me in His Bible, and not just believe a preacher or whoever. So that's how I look at it, and not that I'm starting my own religion or anything. It's just that you know I believe God's the one that He wrote the Bible, and He's the one that can explain it, and that's who I should go to, and that's it.
So that's what you explain in your book, What is Truth?
Uh,
But yeah, which I'm gonna have to read. Um, uh, if you want to talk more about that book, but you've also written other books as well.
right. Yeah. I don't really need to talk about this one much, because even though it was the first one I started with, um, it's probably not the most important book that to myself. it's very important to myself. But you know, it covers history and doctrines and different religions. Pretty much any religion that has a claim on the Bible. Like Islam and you know others I've talked you know about. Well, the Quran has errors in it, and you know you have to trust either the Bible or the Quran. You can't trust both of them. You know, so there's a lot in it. But you know, and in this is another one that's like a traditional book. And then again, you know, I give free PDFs. This is just my own personal. I got a printed one. It just I refute a lot of Christian beliefs.
Mhm.
And not to make fun of them or anything. It's just I grew up believing a lot of these things I debunked
Mhm.
in this book, and I didn't want to write this book. I really didn't. And the reason why I did is because I think God wanted me to, and again to help people, you know, just even you know beliefs about hell and forgiveness and you know just a lot of ones. But so there's 4 main books here, and these again are just my printed versions I got from Barnes and Noble. I'm not a seller in Barnes and Noble yet, probably won't be, because I believe in giving my books for free. So this is just my own reference right now. I mean, I could order a book and then mail it to somebody, but they can't buy for themselves directly from Barnes and Noble. But so there's one missing because I haven't printed it for myself because it's not right done. And that's a Hebrew comparison between the biblical Hebrew and the modern Hebrew. So what I do is if a word is not in the Tanakh, then it will be in my Hebrew comparison book. And that way, at least I myself can say, okay, well, so this one, is basically my dictionary of biblical Hebrew. It's called Counting Roots.
Now,
And
what's really interesting about your dictionary, which I absolutely love, is you've set it up so that the roots are listed not in alphabetical order, but by gematria, so that it's easier to look up to look up roots that have the same value, right? Uh,
right,
so, for example, I'm trying to think of like what's a good word?
so if we could think of a root that has a lot of different roots that are spelled the same with the same letters, so it's
Right.
really helpful for like if there's a couple different roots that have the same exact letters but in different order, then all those roots will be in. So you know, I don't know if this is how readable this is, but so for a given number, it's going to show all those roots in that number, gematria number, because they're all going to have that same value, but they're going to be next to each other. So one thing it did help me to do was when I was writing my vocabulary book,
Mhm.
when I show a root in my vocabulary book, I'll show other roots that you might confuse it with. And so this dictionary, the Counting Roots, it helped me to easily see the ones you can confuse it with, the ones that are spelled the exact same way but different order. And so in my vocabulary one, I like to show the ones you might actually confuse it with, so that it helps you learn better. Um, so that's one, you know. But anyway, just putting the root, and then I put any noun that comes from that root along with that root. So instead of looking up ruach, for example, it's not listed under ruach. It's listed under I think the root is rook, or maybe re, because I think it's reek, our resh yod hate is
That would be 218.
yeah. Let me just look real quick, because I don't remember if I listed them both under resh vav hate, or if I had them separately. So let me look under
So
so
either 214 or 218. What I don't like about, while you're looking that up, what I don't like about Strong's is a lot of times I feel that he gives different numbers based on his own theology. And so I think looking for the 3-letter root is really, really important. And unfortunately, there aren't any websites really, certainly nothing that I've found, which lets you just look at the various possible roots of a word. But yeah, you were saying.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. So it is actually Reish Vav Hate,
Mhm.
according to my belief. And because Ruach, spirit, wind, breath are the main meanings, but Rook, the root, Reish Vav Hate, is to smell, even in Strong's. And so even though it has a Vav as the part of the root, um, also savor, Rayak,
Reach, yeah.
savor, smell, scent are the main meanings for that. It still comes from that, but because if you were just to look up Ruach by itself, you wouldn't really know exactly what you might be able to assume that it's going to kind of have a vav in the middle as its root, but especially if you look up Rayak, it's like, well, does that come from a separate root or does it come from so it just helps to identify where the words come from.
Yeah, it's funny. So when I first started my things, what I suggested to people was to basically do exactly what you're doing, which is, write down which 3-letter root they think each word means. And yeah, it honestly, I mean, I have to say it just seems like God is so working in this. Like we just saw each other on Twitch, right? I recently started because I saw Pastor Tanner does his streams on Twitch as well as YouTube, and I saw he has a lot of people on Twitch, and I'm like, well, okay, if there's people, and so I started on Twitch as well, and I mean, it's actually been very enlightening for me to have you in the stream talking talking things over because yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm trying to figure this stuff out. And another thing we seem to have in common is the belief that the linguists, they, I think the linguists overanalyze things a little bit because you do have to prey on, I think there's a lot of just trying to understand the language. If people are trying to understand Hebrew and actually learn it, one of I don't know if you've seen the channel Aleph with Beth. That's actually a very good one. It's so they're actually teaching people. It's an immersion method of biblical Hebrew. They make YouTube videos, and they don't use any language other than biblical Hebrew.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and they they just go through, and they have lots of videos. I highly recommend it to anybody who wants to actually learn Hebrew. I disagree with certain things that they for example say the name of God just left and right, and it just grinds on me. But yeah, so you were telling us about your books before I so rudely interrupted you.
No, it's fine. I don't mind. It's good. It's good when you help. Because I'm not the best public speaker sometimes. So if somebody can help guide where the conversation can go, that does help. So this Counting Roots dictionary really helped me when I made this. I started this one this was the second book I started working on, the Counting Roots dictionary. and I started, I think, in 2012. So basically, it was my own. While I was learning Hebrew, I wanted this root. I thought of this. God, I'm sure God gave me the idea for this root system. Putting the nouns and stuff with the roots. So it helped me personally to learn.
So you went
then,
through the entire Bible and included every root?
yeah. So when I started in the Torah reading in Hebrew when I was learning in 2011, and any root I came across that I didn't, or even noun that I didn't know yet, I would I believe that's when I started putting it in this dictionary. Also, I did use I don't remember where it was. I found online a Kabbalah type gematria dictionary, but
Right.
they used like phrases, and it wasn't like a classical dictionary. It's more just for phrases and stuff like that. I did look at their dictionary, if you can call it that, to help start mine. But also when I first came across the word I didn't memorize yet, I would put it in. And then I use my Hebrew concordance. If anybody, I can, I'll say what it is real quick. Let's see here. It's called The Englishman's Hebrew Concordance of the Old Testament by George B. Wigram, I think. I took a picture of it. It's hard to read. Wigram, yeah. Anyway, so I went through that Hebrew concordance from the beginning to the end, the whole thing. I went through the whole thing just to make sure I wasn't missing any roots. So this is basically done. It's but if I'm sure I come across errors sometimes. So anyway, that dictionary helped me make this. This is my vocabulary, and so that helped me make this. I don't remember if because I made a Hebrew grammar book also. I don't remember I don't remember if I did the Hebrew grammar one or this one's next, if I started on it. But anyway, so this one I do a day system, like a 30-day system. So this is the fourth day.
Okay.
And what I do is I put about 30. I tried to put about 30, 29, 30 root families. I call them root families. So what I call a root family is like, you have a root, and anything that comes from that, like a noun or anything, that's a root family. So there's about 29 or 30 root families for each day of the month. And I only have 30 days listed in this book because, some months are 31, some are 29, etc. And so what that means is any word, any root family of 20 times that are used 20 times in the Bible, that's not or more, is supposed to be in here. I sometimes find ones that aren't, that I've missed. But so by the end of the month, I've gone over every single root family, pretty much every single word that has been listed in Snock 20 or more times. And that way, once a month, I'm refreshing my memory of all those common words.
Wow.
And so
yeah.
sometimes I've realized I'm forgetting the word, so it helps me. But I've got it mostly down. It's not easy, but
I'm incredibly impressed. I mean, this is a lot of work you did to write these books, and yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just beautiful.
Oh, thank you. So then the Hebrew grammar one, this one, I don't know if when the first Jewish teacher I had, she had me buy, she recommended for me to buy, maybe it's called the First Hebrew Primer, or if anybody cares, I can find it. I have physical copies in a box somewhere.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I started with that grammar book, but it was missing a lot of grammar concepts that I'd have to look up, or she would have to say, "Oh, well, it's missing this, so just pay attention to this." And so this one I made. this grammar book, learning Hebrew learning Hebrew from Genesis,
Mhm.
because it's my belief that when God designed the Torah and the Tanakh, He designed it in a way where we can start learning Hebrew by reading in Genesis. So, in other words, the easiest words are in Genesis, in my opinion. The easiest grammar is in Genesis, in my opinion. There, like the Song of Moses. That's obvious. That's in Exodus. But I mean, there's more difficult portions in Genesis, but for the most part, I believe that God made it so that if we start in Genesis learning Hebrew, it's not going to be as hard as if we start in Jeremiah or Isaiah, or it's going to be really hard. And I mean,
Right.
there's Psalms can be hard, um, even now, because me and Jacob have I did enjoy going through with you, Psalms 19 and uh, um, last time, and because there, like if one of us, like there was a couple words neither one of us knew how to translate it, and we were just like, well, maybe King James is right, or maybe you know, uh, you know, the different commentators are right, But I like it's nice to have somebody else their input to get their input saying, well, maybe it means this, and
Yeah.
um, but anyway, so this, so I based this off of that first grammar book, but also added in the stuff that was missing, and also I used my own concept of learning from Genesis, because the grammar book I learned from was just a traditional, you just start with the common words, and you start with the first person, second person, just a traditional ways of teaching. I actually start with just third person, and then because that's the first grammar conjugation. It's the first conjugation in the Torah is third person, and so I start with that, and then as we encounter second or first person, that's when I introduce that. So I just introduce the words and concepts as they come in Genesis, and not just based on what's popular or whatever.
That's really interesting. I never really noticed that the first verb in the Bible is in the simplest form. Bara is how. So if you look in a standard Hebrew dictionary, words are listed in third person call, um, third person call perfect, right? Avar. So
Right.
that's how you would find the word bara, right? With that root, bet resh aleph, the way you would find it in a standard Hebrew dictionary is by putting it into that form. And yeah, I mean that's very interesting. I can think of many secular reasons why these things would come together, how you're describing it. For example, that Genesis may have been one of the oldest, and so it has more primitive Hebrew, and the fact that the Hebrew that is in the Torah is one in which all the subsequent uh, Jeremiah and everybody else would have learned, and that is like Chumash, the five books of Moses, is how children are started, even today. But yeah, that's beautifully. I never considered these things. It's I completely agree with what you said about having somebody else to talk about. It's very interesting, your ideas. Yeah, it's so funny. I we just seem to click so well.
Yeah, I really appreciate the how we're able to study together, and not uh, lecture each other on our beliefs, or if or because I do have a few different grammar beliefs, I think, but um I mean, I'm willing to be corrected if I'm willing to look into things, but it's nice to just have somebody that if they just do disagree, there's not gonna be a lecture or, well, I can't study with you anymore because, um, so I do appreciate that. And it is pretty cool how, yeah, I think God did want us to meet because, I don't think it was just random, but yeah, it's just cool how I saw your stream and like, I mean, most of like any other time when I went to the biblical section of Twitch, that I followed, the Bible, that I followed, um, it's usually, it's usually not Hebrew for one. I mean, I think there was one, a few times where it was Hebrew, but it's usually like just off in the left park, like, like a lot of, a lot of people when they learn Hebrew, they they take one concept like, I can think of one right now, but I don't want to use that example. But they just focus on that one concept, and that's their big, huge concept. Their big concept isn't learning the Bible or about God. They like to have their pet peeve thing, and that's always going to be their, and I just try to avoid people that have that, singular, just like SDA, the Seventh Day Adventist Church, nothing against the people that go there, but their thing is the Sabbath. Okay, well, and they don't care really about Hebrew, but if they did care about Hebrew, it would all be about the Sabbath, the Ten Commandments only. They don't care about the other commandments, and so I like the broader picture, and I like studying with people who are willing to look at the whole picture and not just focus so much on this one thing that they love about the Bible. I mean, there's lots of things to love and we all have passions, but like, I just like the broad picture study.
I agree with you. I think there are certainly a lot of people, what they find interesting. Personally, I have my beliefs, which are a little quirky and out there. And we talked about some of them, including like the stuff about Mashiach ben Yosef. And for me, it's been kind of important for this channel, my channel, not to be solely about my personal beliefs and things like that, but I think more broadly being about helping anyone who can benefit from, hopefully, I teach I teach Aleph Bet because I think that's what I know to be absolutely true, right? I, I can, I can, I can tell you this is Aleph, this is Bet, this is Gimel, and I can try to help people learn Hebrew. But as far as like this is this concept in the Bible or that concept in the Bible, first of all, I think that the very most important things the Bible just says to us clearly, right?
Right.
God very openly like says this is important, and he repeats it over and over again because this is his message to us. And I don't think God is hiding things from us, which a lot of people do. They think that things are hidden in the Bible, and it's like,
Right.
yeah, no, I think if God wanted to tell us something, he would.
Yeah. I think it's, you know, I view God as our father figure. And it's like, if, if a father on earth, were to have certain rules of the house that were vague and like you had to like search to find the rules, and then you break one, if a child breaks one, it's like, and then they get in trouble, it's like, well, you didn't even explain it to me, you didn't, but you know what I like about God is he does, it's like like you said, he repeats himself and he explains it, pretty, pretty well in simple to understand language. And so we don't have an excuse, if we do something wrong, we can't say, well, you didn't tell us or you didn't explain it, or we have no excuse because it's explained, it's there, it's repeated, it's, that's what I
Yeah,
like.
yeah, yeah. And sometimes it's a little too clear.
Yeah,
It can be like, yeah, God, I know I'm not supposed to be doing this.
right, right.
Um, yeah, so did we go through all your books?
Um, I think so.
I'm
The
just so impressed you wrote books. I keep on meaning to like you know, the idea of actually making a dictionary like you did is you know, it's beautiful, and I'm just so impressed.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I did mention in my Hebrew comparison one. I That's the current one I really want to get done. I mean, it's how many pages is it now? It's like I just started using a dictionary to compare to make sure I didn't miss any words. It's called, well, this isn't the official. It's called a comprehensive etymological dictionary of the Hebrew language for readers of English. Um, I think by Ernest Klein, Carta, Jerusalem, University of Haifa. Anyway, but yeah, so I started I found it for free, so I started using this dictionary. There's a lot of there's a lot of definitions I don't agree with, and there's a lot of Talmud
Mhm.
or Aramaic uh, definitions that I haven't studied myself and I can't verify, and so um, I don't use them. So not that they're wrong necessarily, but it does the ones I do like. So when I come across a word in this dictionary, I'll use a modern like a translator online because my whole goal is to put the modern Hebrew words in this Hebrew comparison dictionary, um, specifically the words that are not in the Tanakh. So that way, essentially, once this is done, um, I will essentially have a complete complete Hebrew dictionary, but in two parts. You know, so it'll be the modern and the biblical. You know, so the counting roots will be the biblical part of the dictionary, and then this Hebrew comparison would be the modern. Now I'm not going to have every single modern Hebrew word in it,
Mhm.
um, but uh, you know, especially swear words and stuff. But you know, the common stuff for sure, and even phrases. I've been putting some phrases in there because a lot of those aren't easy to understand just by looking at them as a because my you know my first learning was biblical Hebrew, and then and then learning the modern Hebrew. A lot of the phrases aren't obvious as to their meaning, so um, but you know, basically that's my main goal is like, so if I come across I can go to Israel and you know, read a signpost. Okay, well, you know, if I have to use my two dictionaries, I'd say, okay, well, this one, you know, okay, I got that one. And it's two
I
books, but
I have to tell you, when I was in Israel, because when I first started learning Hebrew, I took a modern Hebrew class in university, and then I started learning because I was interested in the Bible and things like that. So I really started learning a lot more biblical Hebrew, and uh, what happened was when I went to Israel, uh, my uh, the only person who really understood me was my cousin, who's an archaeologist. Because what I would do is so there are roots that I know, right? And I would start using those roots in all seven binyanim, right? And of course, in modern Hebrew, they don't actually use the words in the various binyanim. So I have a very hard time understanding. I can't pick up a Hebrew newspaper article and read it. Like it's way beyond me, especially because part of the problem I have is there's so many loan words from English that sometimes I'm trying to understand. I'm like trying to pick through a word as if it's Hebrew, and then I realize, oh, this is an English word, like, I don't know, blouse or something, you know. It's like, oh.
yeah, that's one of the things I was realizing while making this Hebrew comparison book is um probably half of the words that I'm putting in this dictionary are just transliterations of English.
Yeah.
It's like, and so, or some of it's transliterations from Greek or Latin. But my problem too when I was trying to read modern Hebrew is I was trying to think, okay, I was assuming that every word was just like an actual Hebrew word, and like trying to think of the root system, like you mentioned, and it's like, well, it doesn't work when it's transliteration, and my mind wasn't thinking transliteration. So, but I think that's one secret, I guess you could say, or tip that I'm learning myself is try to ask yourself, well, is this a transliteration? Because there's so many transliterations in modern Hebrew.
There are, yeah. There are. Honestly, I don't know how much. And one of the things, which, for example, a lot of in religious circles, for example, there's the word chashmal, right? Which means electricity in modern Hebrew, but in actual like in the Bible, chashmal, it refers to angels, and so there in very religious circles in Israel, they will not use the word chashmal. They'll use the word electricity, and they'll transliterate it because they don't want to profane a name of one of the angels. And so there are also these things. And so sometimes people ask, well, why isn't there an official way of transliterating things from Hebrew to English? And one of the reasons there's no official way of transliterating it is because it's so political, right? Some people, that there's the question of the liturgical way and the so yeah, it modern Hebrew makes things a lot more complex. And I'm I mean, yeah, that's quite an undertaking, to try to compare biblical and modern Hebrew. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I started the book for myself. I mean, I'm offering it for free online also as a PDF, but because when I started learning modern Hebrew, you just reminded me that a lot of modern Hebrew words, it, it, uh, it might come from they might have used a biblical Hebrew root as their basis for this new Hebrew word in modern times. But they'll go kind of above and beyond sometimes, or sometimes they'll just go completely in a different direction in their meaning. And we have the biblical Hebrew meaning, and then we have the modern meaning, which doesn't even match anymore. And so there is a lot of times in my comparison book, and this was the main reason why I wrote it, is so that I myself at least could, look in this comparison book and say, okay, well, I know it means this in the Bible, but what does it mean in modern times? And then also in modern times, I can, I can look at this. There's a lot of like the word for jump, like today, because every day I go on Duolingo to learn some modern Hebrew. I mostly use it to help finish my Hebrew comparisons dictionary. But so the word to jump in modern Hebrew in the Tanakh, it actually means to skip, and there's a couple other definitions. So yeah, in modern times, yeah, jump is probably accurate, but I believe skip is probably more accurate. But so the modern Hebrew has kind of made it to jump, but it's still similar. But at least that way I can look at it and kind of understand the differences.
What threw me was the first time I came on the word sapak, which means outlet in modern Hebrew. And so the root is samech pe kuf, which yes, kuf, safek, yeah, which has, first of all, in Hebrew it has the two. So there's safek, which is a doubt, and then there's like maspik, right, which means enough, right? And to provide, that's where the word provide, you know, the root does mean to be, to provide. And so they took that to mean an outlet, as in an electrical outlet, sapak. So the first time I came on that word, and obviously there, you know, when you're reading a newspaper, it doesn't have any of the vocalizations. And so it was like the first time it's Samach Pei Kof, like, are they talking about a doubt? And it took me a while to figure out what was going on there. Yeah, but so yeah, that's yeah. Um, so okay, I think we've done at least a good little introduction to who you are. Was there anything you wanted to add or specifically to talk about?
Um, I mean, you know, if people wanted to see my books, you know, I can put them on your Discord,
Great.
or they can go to my website, whichever one they want.
I will link your website. I'll put it in the description so that it's available.
Okay.
I don't have a very big following, but anybody who's interested, yeah, I'll put your website in the description. And of course, everybody is invited onto the Discord, Jacob's Ladder Discord. A lot of the people who a lot of the people who are going to watch this are from the Bridges of Meaning Discord. I don't think you've been going on that, but that's a different, much bigger Discord than mine. So we are talking about the Jacob's Ladder Discord.
I did join that one, but and I said hi and stuff, but it's a really big Discord.
It
I
is.
haven't really talked much in it, but
Yeah. It's and it has thousands of members and it's very active. Yeah. Yeah, so I am going to stop the recording if I can figure out how.